Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, and the founder of the Blended Pledge. And we've got a great episode coming up for you. Now, I am coming at you live from Paris. You're going to see in just a minute that I am here for the Visibility Now conference on Thursday, if I could talk today. But before we get into everything, let's give a shout out to our show sponsor, which is the Secret Society of Supply Chain. If you haven't been there, it's our newest membership group. It's free. We've also got a Woman in Supply Chain Connections group as well. Head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com to check it out. All right, let's talk about our first the podcast that we have going on right now, our newest episode for this week. And let me just say where you are tuning in. I'd love to find out where you're tuning in from. So make sure to put those in the comments. Want to know where you're tuning in from. If you like the conversation today, you know we always love a good fire emoji as well. All right, so episode 499. Now I'm going to let that hang in the air just for a minute because we are going to be releasing our 500th episode. I'm not sure if it's this week. It might be next week, but stay tuned because that's going to be a very big milestone, and we're going to be celebrating all of that with you on LinkedIn. But this one is episode 499, and it's navigating the EV revolution with Anaplan. Now, we released this yesterday, and we've got some amazing feedback already. A lot of you have really enjoyed this conversation, and so make sure to head over wherever you listen to the podcast, Spotify, Apple, go over to our YouTube channel and check it out because this is a really great episode. All right. Now on Thursday, I did say that I'm in Paris because I'm on site at the Viz Now conference with Shipio, and I'm going to be interviewing all of these great folks here. Now, you might be wondering how you can listen in on some of these conversations. Well, we're going to go live Thursday afternoon for you to listen to all the insights that are going to come from Toyota, Arla, BASF, Interfood, Vita Coco, and so much more. So click the attend button and make sure that you join us on Thursday. But if you click the attend button, we will send you the link, even if you can't attend live. And then next week, Wednesday, November 12th, I'm going to be going live with OptiLogic and Cencora. And we're going to be talking about scaling supply chain decisions, how they did it, how they worked with OptiLogic, and you're going to want to tune into this one as well. So make sure you click the attend button. I know it says 7 p.m. here, but it's because I'm in Paris. This is all going to go down at 1 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday. All right, we've got a brand new live show that is going to be coming at you the third Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern. And it's with Breacham Group with the host, Chris Hamley. And I can't wait because we're going to be having him on Thoughts and Coffee to talk all about this new live show that you're going to want to check out when it comes out. And I can't wait to share all of that with you over the next coming weeks. In person, I'm going to be in Clearwater November 18th through the 20th for the Woman in Supply Chain Forum. On the 20th in the morning, Katie Date and I have a workshop, Unapologetically Worthy, Building Confidence and Community for Women Leaders in Supply Chain. So I hope you can join us there. And then we're also going to have a Woman in Supply Chain dinner on the Thursday. If you're going to be at the forum, let me know. If you're staying till Friday, we'd love to have you there. And then, of course, February 9th through 11th in Las Vegas, we're going to be at Manifest. We have a big announcement coming up. I said it was going to happen this week, but it's actually, I think, going to happen next week about what we're doing at Manifest. We're also going to be recording podcasts live on site, and I can't wait to see everybody there. All right. What else have we got? Oh, yes. We just released this post this morning. We did it. My book, I Buried Her in a French Press, a memoir about finding my voice and the power of being heard, is officially a #1 Amazon bestseller. And that's because of all of you. And it's a #1 Amazon bestseller in 2 categories, which I'm very, very proud of. Thank you so much to everybody who bought the book, who read the book, who sent me messages. Some of you in tears. It's really made quite the effect on the community. And I just appreciate everybody's love and support. All right. Finally, we've got a brand new episode of Blended. Now, this one is about ethical AI. And you're kind of probably wondering, can we have an episode about ethical AI? This one is magic. We're talking about AI all over the place, but are we talking about ethical AI? Are we talking about ethics? What does that actually mean? Well, these guests break it down, and it is a fantastic episode. So wherever you tune into the Blended podcast, Apple, Spotify, go and check it out. It's episode 61. All right. Well, now it is time to bring up our guest for today. I'm super excited about this. Hello, Thomas. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm so excited to have you here. And I can't believe we have this coincidence. I said at the top of the show that I am sitting in Paris right now and coming at them live from Paris, where I usually am in my home studio. You're actually in the south of France. And so
I am indeed. And all the way up to Paris tomorrow as well.
That is awesome. So we're actually doing this show in two parts of France, which is very, very cool. Very, very cool. All right. So why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and a little bit about GreyOrange?
So look, what I do is, I'm an investor and operator. I kind of build and restructure industrial tech firms. And at the moment, I sit in the executive leadership team at GreyOrange, overseeing really strategy and corporate development. For those that don't know, GreyOrange is really the world's largest AI platform in the supply chain space. We're orchestrating robots, people, processes, both across the warehouse and in the store as well. And really helping brands and, system integrators shift from, static automation projects to really self-optimizing AI-driven operations.
I love that. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about it. And of course, I forgot to mention that QR code in the right-hand side is if you want to go grab a copy of my book, please go ahead and do that because we're going to change that in just a minute. Plus, GreyOrange was on the podcast recently. I think it was just a couple of weeks ago. And if you haven't gone to check out that episode, we really dive into who they are, what they do, real life examples of how they help their customers. So I highly recommend you go and check out that episode. We're going to put the link in the comments so you can go and check that out and learn just a little bit more about who they are and what they do. All right, let's get to the poll of the week. So we ask everybody a question every single Wednesday morning because we love to find out from the community how everybody's thinking about some of the things that are happening in the industry. So the question that we asked you, how is your firm approaching warehouse automation investments in 2026? Now, we had about 30 votes. 53% of you said no major changes planned. I think that's going to change after you listen to this episode, but we're going to park that there for just a minute. And then we had 23% across the last two options. One of them was testing new AI robotics, expanding current systems. Thomas, what did you think about A, this question, B, the answers and the results that we got from this poll?
I wasn't overly surprised. I think, it's not really, I think we're moving from a point of there is a lot of robots that have been deployed into a number of installations. And I think now it's not really about the number of robots that are being deployed, but really who is orchestrating those that have been deployed. And I really think that what you're going to start to see as we move into 2026 and beyond is really the value is shifting into orchestration. And I think, from what you see in the poll and from the various discussions that, I'm having in the market, I think people are kind of waiting out the macroeconomic environment, be it the tariff situation, or more broadly kind of sweating out assets, so to speak, of those assets that have been deployed. And then really shifting, as I said, towards kind of these platforms. So how agnostic can you be when you are putting in different types of robots? What kind of data are you collecting? How are you leveraging that data? How fast can you implement? And I really think now there's a focus on real economic outcomes.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that surprised me was the no major changes planned, which was 53%. Now, I don't know if that means that they've deployed them or they haven't, or, you know, they're not really even thinking about investing in this. So I don't know where that lands. But one of the conversations that you and I are going to have on this episode is around how 80% of warehouses are going to deploy robots and automation by 2028. And so I just want to park it there because I feel like if you have no major changes planned and you don't have any plans to integrate that into your planning over the next couple of years, I mean, if 80% are going to do it, you could be left behind, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there are a number of organizations that have started to think more broadly around what are those 2-3 year roadmaps, and a number of large clients, at least the clients that we're working with, have very clear roadmaps around, okay, these are the greenfield type installations that we're looking at. I do think as well, and I sit on the board of another robotics company, Cartesian Kinetics, where they do retrofits, and what we're seeing in the market is quite a lot of opportunities in kind of retrofitting existing sites. And I think a lot of retailers, a lot of brands are kind of weaving that into their plans. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, now is the part of the show where I usually ask you for a bit of a market update. Like, what's happening in your world? What are you talking to people about? What are they excited about? What are they worried about? I mean, I think we probably already know what everybody's worried about right now, but talk to me about what you're hearing.
I think, look, I mean, the tariff situation has been one of those topics that has clearly been a focus this year. I think that's definitely elongated the sales cycles on kind of the robotics side. I think there is increased discussion around kind of the brownfield, as I kind of alluded to, these retrofit installations, and how can you get more out of existing assets. And so a number of the discussions that we're having with clients is, well, how can we bring in kind of orchestration software that we offer at GreyOrange to really get the most out of existing hardware that's sitting within these facilities. So I would say they're kind of the key themes that we're hearing. I do think that there is a shift in focus to the software layer. I think we're at that inflection point where robotics is becoming increasingly well understood, but how do you get more out of those assets? And I think that's where the discussion is going within these organizations.
Well, and that's always part of the technology conversation, is that you do this digital transformation, you implement a type of technology, and then you want to make sure that you're using it to its fullest capability. A lot of times, even when it's being implemented, there are still people within your team, maybe even some leaders, that aren't using it to its fullest potential. I mean, we talk about this all the time, people going back to Excel. And so I think you're right. I think in the fact that if we're going to make investments into hardware and we're going to make investments into robots, what else is it that we can do with them? What is it that we can maximize the potential and the investment that we're making to make sure that we're making the most of it?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, we see a very fragmented market as well. There are a number of robotics players in the market. And I think, is there a question of consolidation? We've already seen a number of startups kind of, fall, so to speak. And you are seeing more consolidation, but I think reliability is a key element, I would say, that our clients definitely want, and I think that's increasingly, as I said, we're at that inflection point, and I think yes, it's all around. It has been all around throughput, but at the board level, what are we discussing? It's around CPU. It's around fulfillment outcomes, and I think that's where the real focus is. And you need warehouses running or stores running. And that requires reliable solutions.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about collaboration in our third article today, but we should get to our first one. I want to give a shout out to Krishna And Mike over on my personal LinkedIn, thank you so much for joining us. Now, remember, if you're loving this conversation, we want to see some fire emojis in those comments. Who's going to be our first? I want to see who that is. All right, let's get to our first article. So the first article I wanted to bring to you because I thought this was fascinating. We're talking about robots, and obviously GreyOrange is into robots, not these kind of robots, and that's why I wanted to bring this one into the conversation. So there is a robot maker that has designed these robots to clean up ship hulls. They're 3 to 5 times faster, and they operate day and night in the water while the ship is moving. Now, there's all sorts of benefits to this, and I want to weigh in on what Thomas has to say. What I didn't realize with this was a multi-billion-dollar global market. I had absolutely no idea. I didn't even know this was a thing until I read this article. Thomas, what did you think about this one?
I think what's interesting here is that the hardware is actually, it's the data collection layer for the software-led kind of orchestration. So, here, the company, it's not just around cleaning hulls. I think they're generating data sets, be it on, I think, drag or coding or fuel performance. And then from what I can understand, there's this AI analytics platform. So, it looks like a hardware company. But I think, from a business model perspective, there's recurring software, there's data. And I think that's really where the market's going. Like, it's all around data, data collection, and then leveraging that data for, for decision making.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think this is a really great example of efficiency and optimization, right? One of the things that they talked about in this article is how it's going to reduce fuel and emissions, which means that they're greatly increasing their efficiency, but they're also being able to hit their sustainability goals, which I think is great. It's still top of mind for everybody. There's still KPIs around sustainability. How are we going to hit them? What does that look like? But obviously, the steamship operators or the steamship lines need to invest in this type of robots and hardware to be able to make this happen. And it's interesting because I was at an annual general meeting for one of the steamship lines just a few years ago. And one of the key points was, how are we going to pay for all of this, right? Because it's not just cleaning the ship hulls. When it comes to the steamship lines and when it comes to the vessels that are out there on the water, there's a number of different things. There's fuel. They had to clean the fuel canal of the ship so that it was more sustainable. Like, there's a variety of different things that the steamship lines have had to step up and do and make investments in. And sometimes, we wonder why ocean freight rates and things like that go up. And it's because everybody needs to be part of this investment to make sure that the vessels are running cleanly and smoothly. Everybody wants to get their products on time, right? Yeah. And I just thought this was a really great way to show how a steamship line is making that investment and how it's going to really increase operational efficiency and reduce some of those emissions.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I really, I really think, that physical layer as well is just kind of creating that lock-in. And then, that software layer kind of creating the scale. And I think you also see that logic play out both in the warehouse and just the broader industrial automation space as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to our second article. And I think a congratulations is in order, by the way, because you were just recently recognized as a representative provider in Gartner's Innovation Insight Multi-Agent Orchestration Platform. So congratulations to GreyOrange. Now, if you want to learn more about GreyOrange, go and click that QR code in the top right-hand corner. We're going to send you straight to their website to find out more. But I want to go back to what I said a little bit earlier on in the show, is that 80% of warehouses deploy robots and automation by 2028. Is that realistic? Is that what we're going to see in the market? Is there enough conversation around this? What do you think?
I think so. I mean, all the tailwinds point towards that. I think, there is a lot of discussion when you're speaking with clients. How do you bring down the cost per unit? And the only way to do that is through automation. And I think through, a lot of these facilities or a lot of warehouses are becoming increasingly complex to actually bring down that cost per unit. And I think through the, MAOP or multi-agent orchestration platform that, is recognized here in one of our core product lines as well, that acts as that kind of control layer above the hardware, the humans, the software, and that really enables you to get more out of those assets. So, I think to your question, yes, I think all the tailwinds indicate that, hardware, software is key, and automation is here to stay. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I want to give a shout out to Shantanu, who gave us our first fire emoji. I love those fire emojis. Keep them coming. All right. One other thing that you mentioned in this article is that you optimize 1 million warehouse operations per minute. What does that mean? How do you even do that? I mean, that's pretty quick.
I think, look, at the end of the day, and we've alluded to it already on this call, is, we're collecting a wealth of data across a number of processes. We're able to leverage those learnings across all the facilities that we work across, and we're also managing and connecting into a number of third-party robotic agents as well. So leveraging all that data with advanced algorithms as well as our broader AI stack enables us to optimize processes, and at the end of the day, through AI, able to optimize processes, which then again drives down that CPU.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about 3 innovation pillars. It's kind of the foundation of how GreyOrange thinks about innovation and how you take steps to actually execute on it. Can you talk about those 3 innovation pillars and why they're so important?
Yeah, I think, look, we're looking at it from a broader kind of perspective of like, there's this AI-driven optimization, and we've already in the public where we're working alongside Google Cloud, really building out reinforcement learning to reduce kind of that AMR deployment time, and then broadly kind of optimize navigation and task execution. You then have kind of just more flexible deployment models. Now, how, that kind of links into the business model. So is that a RaaS solution, robot as a service? Is it, kind of the CapEx model? So really working through our platform around kind of what is the best way to work with clients to get the best outcomes for them. And then the broader ecosystem expansion, it is around kind of continuous collaboration, both with our OEM partners, so our third-party partners, be it Highs, the Quictrons of the world, or the broader kind of integrators that we're working with, the system integrators on the Grey Matter kind of orchestration platform. So they would be the ways that we see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said collaboration. I think too often we're still now talking about how everybody's working in silos. Our next article really focuses on collaboration. I usually have a sign behind me that says collaboration is the future of business, because I really believe that that is the way forward. And being able to share, maybe not, obviously competitive data, but be able to share some intelligence back and forth to protect us, to help us innovate and move forward and see what happens. And I think it really comes down to choosing the right partner that has the same core values and the same sort of innovation pillars and thinks about innovation across the same lines, right? I think that's what really matters, to be able to make sure that you are moving in the right direction, because that's kind of the whole thing behind technology and robotics and automation. How do we know we're moving in the right direction? I think you have to build out a community and have really great partners to help you do that.
No, indeed. And I think that's, we're ultimately building a platform. On one side, we have our OEM partners. On the other, we have, our system integrator partners. But even within the tech stack, you see us partnering with the likes of with Google. And so I think, we see it there, and, you also see it in the retail side. The retail side, for example, is highly fragmented. There's POS, there's RFID, there's workforce apps, etc. It's bringing all of these players together. And I think that's kind of what we do on the G-Store side at the end of the day. We are linking, these, I guess you would say, loosely linked systems together. But that's.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I want to give a shout out over to Amrit. They gave us 2 flaming heart emojis, so I love that. And Don always says, great, always great topics. So I appreciate you all. Now, we're getting to our last article, and you talked about retailers, and you talked about how they're not necessarily collaborative. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that we need more collaboration so that we can protect ourselves. And I said that leading into this part of the conversation, because this talks about how the retail sector teams up to defend against cybercrime. Now, I don't know if you've seen all the stories, but retail has been hit fairly hard in multiple different places, Europe, in the US, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't necessarily always get the limelight as far as some of the conversations or the stories that come out. But this one talks about how there's quiet cybersecurity collaboration between retailers. They're talking about how everything is so connected, which is something that Thomas and I are talking about today, and the fact that we have to be connected when it comes to automation and robots. And so they're actually coming together to share intelligence and best practices. There's a lot of education through threat intelligent experts. And they too mentioned Google being one of those people that they go to for some of that expertise in that area. Thomas, what do you think about this? I mean, everything is so connected in your world. What do you think about protection? What do you think about cybersecurity? How are you thinking about it at GreyOrange?
Yeah, I think it's not that they're really exploiting code. They're as you said, they're exploiting fragmentation. And as I kind of alluded to before, I mean, retail runs on dozens of kind of loosely linked systems, be it POS, be it RFID, as I said, various vendor portals. And I think, the real power is in collaboration. And I think, with GreyOrange, with our G-Store product line, it's not just automation, it's architecture, it's unifying the store systems really under one AI layer, which I guess you could say it's kind of secure architecture. And I think here, resilience, is built into the operating fabric of the stores through that kind of architectural mechanisms. But yeah, it ultimately all comes down to, as you said, and as kind of alluded to in this article, it's all around collaboration.
Yeah. And I think we have to be a little bit careful of those tech stacks, right? I think we need to make sure that how we are taking the different systems and integrating them together. I mean, those partners need to be on the same page as to how to protect not only themselves, but the clients that are part of that retailer's tech stack, or really anybody's tech stack, right?
Indeed. No, I fully agree with you. Yes.
And I saw that we had a little visitor.
Had a little guest, yeah. My daughter decided to join us.
Good. She didn't really wave, and I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to interrupt you. But say hi for me, because I think that was really awesome. All right, I highly recommend that you go and check out all of the articles that we talked about today. We've put the comments in the links in the comments on the Let's Talk Supply Chain side during the show. If you're on my personal LinkedIn page, those links are going to come after the show. And I forgot to give a shout out to our newest members of the Secret Society of Supply Chain. So I want to give a shout out to Bridget, Samira, and Richard. Thank you so much for joining our membership group over the last week. And we can't wait to see you in there talking about all the hot topics in supply chain. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us here on the show today.
Thank you very much, and have a great trip in Paris.
Thank you. And everybody, click the QR code. That's going to take you to GreyOrange, and you can learn a little bit more about who they are and what they do. We'll see you back in my home studio next week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.